So we're just recording this for everybody. So welcome everyone to our regular Universal Rays Healing Seminar. As I said earlier, we like to do this every 3 months, and every 3 months we just go over things. We answer questions. Some people like to share sometimes an experience they've had and might have a question about it. Or they might talk about how powerful the work is. There's a few things I wanted to go over today, and I've made a little list of things. So I'm going to do that, and then we can do a bit of co-creation about what we want to talk about if you do that. We are going to go over a couples chart. So if somebody's in a relationship and you would like to have a couples chart done, you can make sure you've got your rays and you can let me know, and I'm very happy to do. I think we'll only probably get one in. We might get two, but we'll get one. So if you have got your rays of yourself and your partner, then you can talk to me and we can do that. But firstly, I want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you for doing this work. My understanding over these years is the feedback we get is it's very powerful for the people receiving this work, but also for the healers that are offering it. Because as you know, it's one of those healing modalities that offers healing for the healer as much as for the client. So there's a transformation that goes on both levels. It'll be different for each of you. So whoever's on your table is going to receive transformation, and you too, as a healer, receive that transformation. And I know this because when I talk to practitioners who've been doing this work for a few years, they have definitely seen a transformation in themselves. So it's really important to acknowledge that. So just to be aware of that. So it's a beautiful modality for this work. And I was just talking to Kurosh about it earlier, the many years it took me to bring it through, but it was certainly worth the hard work that in that time, the few years while I was struggling to channel it all. And it's the only training that I offer that I've ever struggled to channel, because I never thought I was a healer. So it was sort of very interesting. I brought through many other courses quite easily, but this one was a bit different for me. So let's talk about the healing side of it for a change, because I know you can do the theory online and you come online and you learn all the theory, but then when you've done the theory, you then go and work with a teacher that's been accredited by us and trained by us to learn how to do the healing itself. And of course, not everybody wants to be a healer. Some people just come and do the training online because it gives them some great information and it helps them to understand things a little bit more. But for those of you who go on to become healers, it's really important to understand a few things about this work that may be a little bit different to some of the other things you do in your toolbox as a healer. One of the things that's really important with universal rays is to really understand that you're working with very high frequency consciousness. You're not working with colored light. You're not working with lower dimensional energy, third, fourth, even fifth dimensional energy. You're working with much more powerful energy, which is one of the reasons why the Ascended Masters are the gatekeepers of the universal rays that help it to come through. And so it's so important to be in preparation for this work as a healer and also for your client. So we spend a little bit of time preparing ourselves, and you've all would have seen the little program, the little meditation we do that takes maybe 10-15 minutes before you start your healing day. And you've all been given that. And that's just a beautiful way to anchor and ground yourself, preparing yourself for this work. The other thing is too, that because the rays are very powerful and you're working with very high frequency consciousness that's moving through you and you're channeling it through you to the client. Your spiritual regular hygiene is really important. So that means regular chakra work, a little bit of regular shadow work, because if you've got energy sitting in your field that's blocking the flow, it's going to create a lot of discomfort for you. So it's so important that you remember to prepare yourself on a regular basis. You keep yourself energetically cleansed as much as you can. When you come to do a healing, you're not full of emotional energy. You haven't just had a huge argument with your partner or your children, you haven't, or your mother or your father or whoever you might argue with at times. You're not emotionally out of balance. You are prepared. If you have had conflict of any sort, go and do a bit of a cleanse and actually ground yourself before you ever come into a healing. This is really important for the universal rays. It really is, because it will affect you if you don't. And the second thing is the preparation of your client. We spend 20 minutes at least preparing the client to receive the rays, if not longer. And we do talk about this, but I'm just reminding everybody again why we do that. We anchor a healing temple around our table. We ground ourselves. We call in all the beings, the masters and our 5 healing angels. Never forget the 5 healing angels that work with you in every healing you do, because they do so much work for you and for your client. And it's really important to connect in with those 5 healing angels. Your client will certainly connect in with them. As we've said before, clients often say, oh, I thought you were still doing the healing when you've sat down or you've left the room, because your 5 healing angels are still working on the client after you've finished, because your job's done. But then they're continuing to send the energy through. So never underestimate those 5 very powerful healing angels that you work with. So call them in. And the more you get to meet them, the more you will know about them. And so we do a lot of balancing on the body, and that's really important, because we have to prepare the physical body, which is a 3rd dimensional energy consciousness, to receive very high frequency consciousness of the rays. So we balance the body. We sound a mantra, which is actually a call to all the cells to wake up. It's the mantra that calls in the energy of God consciousness, calls in the energy of source consciousness, but it's also calling into all the cells of the body, saying, awaken, awaken, awaken your God consciousness, allow the frequency of the rays to flow through you. So it's asking them to let go of any resistance to receiving this work. So you're preparing the body, you've balanced the body, then you balance the body. You do a sweep on their physical etheric aura, because you're just asking for anything that they've just experienced, if they get the bus to you or if they're online and they've had an argument with somebody, you want to sweep off that old energy. So you sweep it off. So it's not going to interfere with anything they receive. Then you balance the body. So you balance the energy in the body. So you balance the flow of energy and how it flows. It's so important to do that before you even begin to check the chakras. And you do all of that. And that really begins to prepare the body. Yeah. And then you'll check the chakras so you know what's happening. But then you also send pranic energy through the body. So we're grounding, we're calling in a healing temple, we're sweeping the body, we're using sound to open up all the cellular structure of the body. We're balancing the energy of the body. And then we bring pranic consciousness through. Now, pranic consciousness is consciousness and energy that the body is very used to. The same with sound. It has no resistance to it. So it's very happy to receive prana, to flow through it. It's very happy to receive sound because it's used to sound and it's used to prana. So by the time you have done all of that, which usually takes a good 20 minutes, the body is ready to receive the frequency of the rays without going into resistance, without seizing up and blocking like this. It goes, ah, now I'm ready. Thank you. I'll receive. And that's why it's so important, that preparation time. Because if you don't do that and then you try and bring the rays through without that preparation time, the body will seize up. The body will, because we're bringing high frequency light energy through a body that's not used to it. So it's going to shut down to it. It's going to say, no, I don't know what that is. I don't want it. It's going to shut down. So when you do all that preparation and you take the time and the energy and you understand what you're doing, then the body lets go and invites that higher consciousness in. And your work as a healer, then you can channel it through. And your work is then, it just flows. You don't need to control anything. You don't need to do anything. You trust that the rays flow through you and to the client, and they do exactly what they're meant to do, and you don't need to intercede or to interfere, because we're talking about high frequency consciousness, and it doesn't need your third dimensional interference. It just needs you to open up and let it flow. Yeah. And that's the gift of being a healer for this work, because it flows through you. That means it flows through all your cells, all your meridians, all your whole body. And you've also helped yourself to prepare. So you're receiving it and you share it with the client, and it does whatever it needs to do in you as it does whatever it needs to do in the client, and whatever the client is ready to receive, whatever that might be. And you can't control that, but that is the gift that you give. So it's so important just to remember those steps are really important, and not to forget them, or not to just do them without being conscious of what you're actually doing. You need to treat this as a sacred ceremony for your client, for the rays, and for yourself as a healer. It's a sacred ceremony, and it really requires your time and your energy and your conscious focus to what you're doing. So I just wanted to share that with you today. And just remembering that mantra, you know, you sing it 12 times, it's sound, and sound is really important. You're calling in the source energy, you're calling it into the cells, you're asking for it to be present, you're asking for it to awaken within the client as much as awaken within yourself. So take time with it. Don't sort of go, Om Mana Ramu, Om Mana Ramu, you know, don't do it like that. Really sound it. Yeah, feel it rumble through you. Yeah, you don't want to do it just through your head, you want to do it through your heart. Yeah, and really feel it moving through. And if you do that, then your client, by the time you finish that mantra, your client will probably be in a different space of consciousness altogether. They should be, you know, even before you've done the rest of it, the client should be ready just to receive almost. Yeah, because you sounded with sacredness that mantra, which calls to the cells in the body and the consciousness to awaken, to receive. So does anyone want to share about that preparation time? Any experiences they've had about that? No?
I can share that the sounding for me has been a real experience. And maybe that's because I'm a harmonizer as well, maybe not. But I've really, over the years, experienced when tuning in to the person on the table, the sound that comes through is often very different. It's not
Yes.
It's not the same. And equally, as you go through the mantra 12 times with that person, the harmonics of the sound changes as well. It's almost as if it's offering an attunement somehow through the frequency of the sound that's coming through. So I always notice that it's completely different for every person.
Mm. Does anyone else notice that?
Yes, a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe not as spectacular as Joe is experiencing, but also about the sounding. I also experienced very strongly or very deeply the change of frequencies in me and especially around us in our energetic field.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's really amazingly spectacular, I should say. So yeah, that's really shocked me almost because I didn't expect that. And I noticed it once, so I thought, okay, my mind is tricky and playing me something. But then it happened again and again. So I really can feel this, yeah,
Yes.
frequencies change. Yeah. And it's amazing.
It does. And that's so good, Muriel, because it does affect, as you sound, the sound will affect your whole space. But as Joe said, you know, if you become conscious of it, you will often find that you're sounding, when you sound the mantra, you will find that the sound will change depending on who's on your table. And because it's relating to the consciousness of the person and what their consciousness is calling for. So it's a beautiful thing to do. Yeah. Now you've got your hand up.
Yeah, it was just to also that for me, one thing that really helps open the space is the few words that we say at the beginning to connect to the client's energy.
Yes.
And I find that also sometimes changes.
Yeah. And that's when you open the healing temple. Yeah.
Yes, when you call in the healing temple and taking that time to really be present and open up to receive that support and, you know, call in their presence, their divine presence, their aspects and the masters and the angels.
And when you do that, it's because every client has different needs and different consciousness. So when you're opening the healing temple, you're opening up a space that's very particular and specific for the needs of that client on that day. And it's the same thing when you do the sound for them. You're creating sacred space for them, which is beautiful. Yeah.
I have one question with that, is that with the, you know, when you're doing it more online, I found that I've done that aloud. Now, I know on the whole healing is done in silence. So partly I do that because I feel it helps the person online to also sort of get into it. And partly I think it's for my own reassurance, maybe. And also partly because when I've received healings, that it's been done aloud. So just confirming really that that's okay.
Yes, you should do it aloud, even when the person's in the room with you.
Okay.
When you're opening up the healing temple, definitely. I always do it aloud. Yeah, definitely. Because you're setting the space, you're setting the consciousness, you know, and you're just preparing that space. And I like to certainly do it aloud. Yeah.
Yeah. I find I do now, but I was just, I was told at some point it was to be done silently. So
no, I mean, the only real reason you do it silently is if you had someone on the table that you knew was perhaps a little bit averse to spiritual sort of stuff, maybe. That, you know, that maybe they might get up from the table and run. I don't know. We don't want to encourage them to do that. But yes, no, I don't do it in silence. I certainly set my intention, set the healing energy, and yeah. And so
Great. Thank you.
both you and the client know that they're now in a sacred space.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is, then you proceed from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think today, particularly, most people are very keen to do more spiritual type things, and if they're coming to you for a universal raise, they're usually quite, they're happy to hear that you're creating a sacred space for them to sit in. Yeah. So, yes. Anyone else want to share? Or who has perhaps a question about preparation time?
Hello, Ishtar. Sorry, a couple of quick questions from me.
Oh.
So this coming week, I'm very fortunate. I've got about 4 or 5 people who they volunteered for me to practice with,
Fabulous.
and I'm really looking forward to it. One of them in particular, she mentioned to me that she's going to be doing things like ayahuasca a few days beforehand. So is there some sort of rule of, the days before she needs to do a clearing or something?
Look, if she's going to do ayahuasca, I would recommend that you do the healing before she does ayahuasca, not after. And particularly not a few days afterwards. I think I really would dissuade you against doing it after. I'd do it beforehand. And if she can't do it beforehand, I would allow a couple of weeks before you did a universal raise healing on her if she's doing ayahuasca.
Okay, it's really good job I asked then.
Yes, it's good to ask
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And other things, like other type of plant medicines like hape, or are they similar as well, or is it?
Well, there's lots of different plant medicines around today. I mean, we've always had plant medicines that are hallucinogenic and psilocybins and things like that, that change consciousness or change the way we see things in our mind. But, if you're going to do this sort of work, I think if you're going to go and do that, it would be really good to have 3 sessions, have a full healing of universal rays before you go and do it, so that your whole energy field and consciousness is a lot clearer. Because when you go and do these plant medicines, if your energy field is not clear, it's not always going to be a very pleasant experience for you. And then, then always do a few weeks afterwards, let the body and everything settle down before you do.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And one other quick question. So when you're preparing your client and you're standing behind them and you're sort of calling in the angelic healers, etc., I've not done this yet, but I just felt intuitively compelled that when I'm saying these things, to have my hands on the client's shoulders. Is that okay, to have that contact while you're calling them in, or?
Yeah, I like to put my hands over their third eye or over their crown. I don't touch normally. I usually put them over. It's sort of normally that's what we like to do. And also to always ask your client if they're happy to be touched. Some people don't want to be touched, when you're doing chakras and that. I'm very tactile, so I actually like to touch. But I always check with my clients, because some clients don't want to be touched in a healing, and it's important to honor what the client wants. Don't just force your hands on them because you think it's the best thing for them. We never force things on our client. We ask our clients what they want. I don't know. For me, it's either third eye or crown, where I just hold or sometimes I even hold on the side of the head. Normally not on the shoulders. I like to be up there. But what about everybody else? Where do you normally get guided to place your hands, Joe?
At the beginning.
Yeah. When you're setting up the space.
Well, I always sound the mantra with my right hand on their heart and my left hand on their third eye.
Yeah. But when you're opening up the healing temple,
I'm standing at the top of their crown.
yeah. And where do
I'm
you
not
put your
actually
hands?
I'm not. I have my hands out at my side, standing at the top of their crown chakra.
Yeah. Yeah.
As I call in and anchor the space.
Good. Anyone else? Yeah. So when you sound the mantra, make sure your hands are in the right position. They're not there.
Yeah.
Yeah, as Joe said. But when you're calling in the healing temple, as I said, if you want to put on the shoulders, that's fine. I really like to have it at the crown because you're holding, that sort of energy. Just, that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much.
That's okay. Okay.
Nick just asked a question on chat that I've just responded to, just to
Okay.
clarify for everybody
Sorry.
that it is the left hand. No, it's fine. It's the left hand that pulls the energy out and the right hand that gives the fourth ray when you're dealing with physical pain.
Yes. So just remember that the left hand is palm up when you're sending prana. Yes, that's right. Yes. Is this what we're talking about? The right hand,
Yes,
the left hand anchors always. Yeah. Is that what she's saying?
Yes, but then this is specific to dealing with physical pain in the body.
Yeah, well, that's a new rule. I haven't heard this one before, so you can share it with me.
Well, in our manuals, when we're working with physical pain, just to clarify for everybody, you'll have it on page 104 in your manual level 1. But it says for physical pain, place your left hand on the area where the pain is. The left hand pulls out energy.
Yeah.
Focus on the energy of pain being drawn into your left hand, and then call on Saint Germain to bring the 7th ray
through
and the violet flame to disperse the energy.
Yeah.
When you have drawn out the energy, then using your right hand, send the 4th ray to the area of pain and ask the body, that part of the body that is holding the pain, to surrender and come into balance and harmony.
Okay. Yeah.
And then
that's just getting that clear. Good.
Yeah.
It's interesting with this because often you'll find as a healer, some of you will only work on emotions. A lot of you will work on a lot of physical stuff. Some of you will work on mental stuff. Sometimes you just do a lot of karmic work. Have you been noticing that? Did you focus on one particular area? That's what comes to you as a client? Or are you using lots of you're working on different things? Over the years, I've found often that healers get, certain clients come to you for certain things. It's something that we attract. So it's just interesting to be aware of that. Okay. So let's have a look at a couples chart. I'm just going to, we might get 2 in, you never know. We'll see how we go. Now, I'll ask a really good question earlier before we started. And can everyone see the chart?
Yep.
Yeah, it's big enough for everyone? Yeah. Hannah asked a very interesting question earlier about what happens when the ancestral ray and the monad ray is the same. Because we know when the soul ray and the ancestral ray is the same, that the soul has created the karma on the ancestral line. But her question was, does that mean if the monad and the ancestral is the same, is it the same thing? And of course, no, it's not. But what it does mean is it means that the karma that you're experiencing, because the ancestral and the monad are the 2 main areas of karma in the soul path on the soul ray. So it means that karma will be very focused. And if you then see it anywhere else in the chart, you know where it will be focused. So it'd be physical, emotional, mental, that whole karmic energy will be extremely focused. So it also means that it will probably be reasonably strong in the family. The immediate family will hold this karma a lot more strongly if it's sitting in the monad and in the ancestral. So it doesn't mean that you've co-created the karma with an ancestor. You could have, but it's not a rule. But it does mean that you're working with, this is really strong karma and the person really can't avoid it. So they're working through their family line, their bloodline, and they're working through it through their own experience in this lifetime. So be aware. And then if you then see the same ray appearing somewhere else, then that's going to show you where that karma is going to express itself in the soul chart, to be aware of that. So who would like to give me a couple? Have you got a partner, Kurosh?
Sorry, I do you mean in my life? Am I in a relationship?
Yes.
No, I'm single.
Single. Okay. Well, you can't use that. Who else? Venus. Oh, Venus. I think I've done yours, haven't I? So yes. Who else has a partner that they would like to? We got someone with a partner? No one.
No.
Nick.
I think we've done Nick's.
Nick, have you done Nick
or
already?
ours, Jojo?
We did yours too.
Yeah,
Done
done
yours.
yours. Anybody here who hasn't had theirs done, who has a partner and knows their numbers?
Nicola's added hers in the chat.
Yes, but we've done Nick's.
Anybody else who hasn't? Maybe there's not anyone else here that has or knows their partner's number.
Okay. Well, Nick, we can have a look at Nick's just to show everybody. Nick, I've only got
Yeah.
I did Cams and Heidi's. Okay, well, Nick, well, give me yours. I've got 7256413. Is that yours or is that your husband's? Okay, thank you.
No, she's just added mix as
Okay.
well.
Yeah, that's all right. She's just given it to me in the chat. So I'm going to do this. I've got the right order, I hope. Okay, and Nick's husband is 5, 2. We haven't done yours either, Venus. Well, if you've got your rays, I thought we'd done yours, but if we've got your rays, get them for me and we'll try and do them.
Okay.
Because we'll probably have time. 4, 5, 6, 7, 4, 1. Because when you're doing soul paths, it's nice sometimes to do couples. In my book, Healing with the Masters, it tells you how to do the couples as well as to do the individuals. So here we have wife and husband. And of course, what we're going to look for. Oh, look, there you go. You've got 6s in the mental. Exactly the same. 6s in the mental. So where else have we got similars? We've got
Monad.
and 6s in the monad, and 2s in the monad.
No, monad.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. And it's interesting too. I love it when I see couples that have got a soul ray and their soul ray is matching the other partner's ego ray. It's always very interesting to watch that. I always look for that. So here, Nicola's ego ray is the same as her husband's soul ray. So let's go there first, because I think in relationships, this is a very telling thing. So when you've got ray 5, ray 5 is all about, it's about the mental. So it's about higher and lower mental, as we know. I'm not going to go into the whole reading, but I'm just going to go into the things that are standing out. So here we go. Nyx in her life. So the ego is very present. It's about the personality. It's very much about what the personality is going to be interested in. So she's either going to be very interested in all the little details of life and get all caught up in all the details of life, or she's going to, at some stage, think, well, maybe there's a bit more than where my mind is going. Maybe there are more than just the details of everyday life, and getting caught up in all of that. And maybe it's a really good idea to consider that there is a higher consciousness, there is something else. And so probably for a long time, when you've got a 5 in the ego, you know, I always call it the Einstein ray, because it's always that lower consciousness to the higher consciousness. So we always relate it as the Einstein ray. So this is where Einstein for a long time was caught up in all the lower consciousness, all the details of the mental and the intellectual and the knowledge, and then suddenly became aware that, and it happens with ray 5, suddenly became aware that there is a higher consciousness, there is something more. And, you know, and when he became aware of something more, the story goes, of course, is that's when he discovered quantum physics. So this Einstein ray. So when you've got somebody playing something like that out, and this is sitting in her husband's soul ray. Now, we often, unless we start a serious physical journey, a spiritual journey, we often don't feel very connected to our soul. We'll run our life through our ego. We run life through the ego, not so much through the soul. When we start our spiritual journey, we're still sitting in the ego. We're working with all that monad energy. We're playing it out. We're learning. And then one day we'll start to hear the soul calling, whenever that might be. And you know, the soul's been calling to us, but we haven't really been listening, and we're going through all the mind stuff and all the monad stuff and all the karmic stuff. And then one day we really start to hear the call of the soul. But when you've got your partner playing out the soul's mission in their life, it's sort of going to affect your soul in some way. It's going to affect your connection to your soul. So I can safely say here that Nyx's there to play this. She's playing out this ray 5 in a very real physical way. And so it's playing out for her. And naturally the husband can't ignore it, because she's there playing this out. So somewhere there will be a resonance, even when if he's not recognizing it, there will be a resonance in his soul, because that's his soul mission. His soul mission on earth is to really come in and connect with that higher consciousness on the earth. That's his soul mission. That's his soul desire. So, you know, there we are. And so Nyx playing that out for him. So I always think that there's no coincidence in relationships. There is a real reason these two have come together. Nyx come together to play this out for him and to say, hey, you know, I'm unconsciously, of course, you know, I'm playing all this out, and it's calling to his soul. So he understands what she's going through in her ego in some respect. So he would support that spiritual journey. He wouldn't be against it. He would support it in some way, because his soul would be talking to him, even if it's unconscious. And then he's got that ray 3 in his ego. So he's probably a lot more practical in a sense, and he's probably practical, but also quite creative. And he really, you know, and he expresses that in a physical way, but he's also quite creative, and he has lots of different ideas. So there's Nyx. She's playing around with the detail of life, or the higher consciousness in her personality, sometimes very grounded, very present, other times off with the pixies at times. He's looking at her, his soul is saying, well, you know, that's okay. She can be off with the pixies at times. But on the other hand, in that ray 3 for him, he's also very creative. He's got lots of ideas. and he often likes to work in the physical with her because it's a very physical thing for him, and he likes to manifest these things in the physical. So in some way, I'm sure that Nick would support him in those ideas, because even with her detail, she might get involved and help him to make it happen through more detail in the life. So, you know, that could also happen, that Nick could support his ideas and his creative endeavors, whatever that might be, through her ability to look at the details. And, you know, I mean, in something like that, you know, Nick could be, you know, the husband could start a business that's quite successful, because Ray 3, I always call the Richard Branson Ray. It's the entrepreneurial Ray. And Nick could then, with her Ray 5 ability to be in the detail of the mind, might actually then support him, be his bookkeeper, or be, you know, the person who does his 5-year plan or something rather, because he's too busy with his ideas or whatever he's doing. So they could, you know, there's a lot of co-creation through the ego here, through the personality, and a lot of chat about that. So it could be quite lively. Then, of course, we have the 6 in the mental. So the 6 in the mental pushes both of them to want to be perfectionists. So it's always going to push them to want to be perfect at what they're doing. So they'll support each other in that perfection. And that could get a bit exhausting at times, seeing the 2 of them. I don't know whether I'd like to be your children, Nick, because it might get a bit exhausting with you 2 wanting to be the perfectionists in the family. The kids might go, oh my God, Mum and Dad, can you give it a break, you know? But, you know, there's that 6 mentality of, you know, let's get this perfect, let's get this right. And, you know, the 6, of course, for Nick is calling her into that higher consciousness, chasing the divine self. Probably more for Nick. I don't know what your husband's name is. I'm not sure. I keep calling him your husband, but I haven't got a name. But if you want to give
Mick.
Me
Mick.
Nick. Oh, Nick and Nick.
Mick.
It's Mick and Nick. Okay. All right. So, you know, that 6, he's probably a little bit more in the perfectionist. Let's get this right. You know, if he was a builder or something or other, he'd have all the edges right, and, you know, whatever. The house wouldn't have a lean on it. It'd be perfect. And you would support him in that, but you'd also be supporting that connection to the divine, because you're chasing through your personality that divine connection, which his soul, which he may not through the personality have connected with yet, but he certainly has the opportunity, because you're going to support him to do that. Then let's have a look at the Ray 2 and the monadic consciousness, that unresolved karma. Now, we always know it's unresolved karma. We don't know where they are on the polarity. But Ray 2 is, you know, I always call it a bit of a doozy, Ray 2, because it's always about self-love. It's always about self-acceptance. So when you've got that mental Ray 6 that's constantly looking for perfection, it's going to feed into that lack of self-love, that unworthiness that Ray 2 brings up. So the 2 of you are going to reflect that. So how's that going to work out in a relationship when the 2 of you are perhaps being in, and maybe not so much now, but in the early days, probably a little needy, probably wanting to constantly be approved of by your partner, but also wanting to approve your partner and wanting your partner to having expectations of how they should love you and how they should behave and how they should show you they love you. And if they don't do these things, there could also be issues around that. So, you know, this is this whole Ray 2 energy that can come in and go, well, you know, he doesn't take out the garbage when I ask him, well, then he doesn't love me, or he doesn't take me out for a date night to a really nice restaurant, he doesn't love me. And he could be saying, well, she's not, you know, supporting my business, so then she doesn't love me, or she doesn't iron my shirts, so she doesn't love me, I'm not good enough for her. So there could be a lot of that energy going on with these 2 Ray 2s. And then in the mental, the Ray 6 as well, seeking that perfection in the relationship as well, through the mind, wanting, you know, the partner to be perfect as much as everything else to be perfect. So that could be a very interesting thing. And so what I would be recommending to this couple above everything else that they do is to focus on self-love and self-worth, and to forget about everything else and just really hone in on that and support each other to feel good about themselves, support each other to really honor and love themselves, and support, really give each other that support. It's so important. And the Ray 2s can do that because that's really part of the Ray 2 nature. No matter how much they're afraid and feel vulnerable at times in love, and how they really want other people to approve of them and love them and like them. When you've got 2 Ray 2s in the monad, you're going to support each other. You're going to have each other's back. And you really should remember that you're there for each other. And, you know, become aware of that Ray 6 in the mental that's maybe saying, well, it's not good enough. You know, it's not good enough what you're doing for me. Stop doing that. It would be what I'd be saying to this couple, because it's very sabotaging, and you really need to focus on that unresolved karma that you both hold of the little child that doesn't feel loved and is constantly wanting that love from each other. And then that mental comes in and starts that judgment stuff. It's never good enough. So whatever level you're working on, and you're both going to be doing that with each other and with yourself. So it's important to focus on that love, you know. And then before we get into the other bits, we've got Nick there. She's got Saint Germain guiding her on, wanting her to do the spiritual path. So she's going to jump straight in, and we know she has, because I know Nick, so I know she has jumped into that spiritual path. And the Ray 7 is the soul calling to you. When you've got a 7 in the Ray, in the soul, it's very hard to avoid the spiritual path or wanting to connect with spirit, because it calls to you. And Saint Germain, you know, hit you over the head and say, come on, let's get on with it. And wanting you to do that. So it's going to support Nick to really honor that there is a higher consciousness, and it's going to pull her to that. And that's going to support Mick, her husband, to recognize that there is something more here. Not quite sure what it is, but there is something more here. And interestingly enough, we come then to Mick, who has 7 in his emotional. So what is that saying? That is saying that there is an emotional issue around Nick's that's going to be expressed by Mick about, sorry, Nick and Mick, sorry about that, I know you get this all the time, is going to be expressed by Mick. And it's going to be a bit of a mirror for you, Nick, about your spiritual path. And it's going to be an emotional mirror for you. And it's based on the sacral, so it's all about, it's a governing meridian, it's a strong energy, it's the soul energy, so in the emotional. So there's something here about Mick's emotional response to your spiritual path. So either it can be, and this is something only you could look at, either there is an emotional response, there's a reaction to it, he might be a bit frightened of it, he might be a bit concerned about it, he's not quite sure about it. He can sort of hear that soul calling to a higher consciousness, so he's sort of open to it. Or he might be 100% emotionally supportive of it for you, because it's a soul energy that's sitting in your emotional, in his emotional, and it's sitting in your soul. So there's a really deep connection there. So either he's going to respond to it, and maybe he emotionally responds to it and reacts in a negative way initially, but eventually really 100% supports it. Depends. We don't know, but there's that potential there. And then, of course, there's your 4 in the emotional that can get a bit caught up in all the drama. So you love a little bit of drama, a little bit of gossip, a little bit of this and a little bit of that keeps life spicy. You know, that 4 there loves to have a little bit of drama going on, a bit of conflict and whatever. So if he's reacting to your soul path and what you're doing, then you could get caught up in all the drama of that as well and make it even more dramatic. And we could be in an opera then, and we could have this whole big thing going on, you know. So I would say to you, tone it down. Come back to that ray 2 in the monad and learn to hold support for each other instead of getting into this ding dong about, in your emotional senses, because that ray 6 again with that judgment and, can come up, that perfectionism, it's not good enough, all of that stuff. And then Nick gets into a tiz about whatever, and then he gets into a reaction about whatever you're talking about, which could be just because you're talking spiritual talk and he's going, what a load of crap, And then you get more emotional. So watch that in your relationship. Come back to your monadic, unresolved karma. Come back and support each other. Support each other, because there's so much going on in this chart where you do support each other. You are meant, there's so much you're teaching each other here. So get out of the drama and get out of the judgment, and then come back to self-love and self-connection and support each other on an emotional and loving level, because the strength is there. That's where your key is. In the physical, Nick's very strong in her physical. She's got a strong constitution. And, she pushes things to the zenith. She's one of those people that has to finish everything, even if it kills her. So she'll, whatever she's doing, she works at it till she drops. She doesn't stop to have a break and say, I'll do it tomorrow. She'll do it today, because that's the ray 1 in the physical. Got to finish it, got to get it done, on we go. And then in the physical, very interestingly enough, Mick, the husband's got the 4. So in his physical, there could be a bit of drama, a bit of stuff going on in his physical. So your emotional responses can also play out in his physical, Mick. So, when you're in drama and all that, you probably cause him a lot of stress. So that's why you need to tone that drama down in the emotional, because 4 in the physical can cause physical issues, through that stress reaction. He needs physically a bit more harmony and peace. He wants to be in harmony and peace. And so you need to make sure you bring more harmony and peace into your emotional self, so that his physical will find harmony and peace, because it also responds to you. And then, of course, you've got the ancestral. Now, Nick's ancestrals are 3, but she hasn't got a 3 anywhere else. And Mick's a 1, and he hasn't got a 1 anywhere else. But, interestingly enough, Nick has a 3 in her ancestral, and guess where Mick's 3 is? It's in his ego. So there is a bit of unresolved karma. So I'm going to say to you, never ever tell Mick he can't do something, or that he's not skilled enough, or that he hasn't got the knowledge to do it, or that his ideas are stupid. Never tell him that. Yeah, that's coming from your ancestral. If you ever say that to him, it's coming from an ancestral memory. It's not truth. So please don't do that. And for Mick, also, it's about not telling you not to do something, because he will say to you, he may say to you, you can always do everything. You're so strong. So he might need to, or he might tell you, get over it and be strong at times. So, and play that out as well. And that's coming from his ancestral. But the interesting thing is that it's not personal to either one of you, because he doesn't have a 1 anywhere and you don't really have a 3 anywhere. So it's only going to play out at times, and you might be your fallback when you have a bit of an argument and you want to tell him off. You might fall back to that old ancestral memory, and that's probably the only time it'll play out. So looking at this chart, I mean, we could go on and on, but I'm only going to look at the overall picture. Looking at this chart, this couple needs to really focus on supporting each other in a loving way, and supporting each other to let go of their hurts, particularly their childhood hurts, to support each other to really come into accepting and loving themselves, and supporting each other that they're worthy of being loved by each other and by others, but worthy of being loved by themselves and by each other. And that's the key for this relationship. And if they remember that, this is a really strong relationship that will, you know, they'll manifest what they've come to manifest if they can remember to work with that old karma. How does that resonate for you? Can you, are you able to speak, or do you just want to put it in the chat?
Oh, there we go. Sorry, I couldn't work out how to unmute myself. That was amazing. Thank you so much for that. I really needed that. You just kind of went through our whole relationship and really just gave me so many keys on where to focus. So it was really incredible. Thank you.
You're most welcome. You see, it's sometimes really good to do couples charts and really have a look at them and see how they go, and you know, to give advice for couples and to help them, because there's a reason that couples come together. And you know, you can clearly see that there's a whole connection with this couple, you know, that they're meant to be together and they've got a lot of things to teach each other, but they have to support each other. And that's really important. They've got to learn to co-create together, because there's so much that will come out of this relationship if they do that. Yeah. So it's a beautiful chart. So we normally finish at this time. Does everyone want to stay for one more chart, or do we want to complete? I'm very happy to do one more, but otherwise, if you're learning something, if you don't feel so, we can do it another time. Yeah,
it's great to learn. I love it. Yeah, you've got Venus and Graham's in the chat as well. It's
yeah, that's,
wonderful.
well, I was going to do Venus and Graham's next. So
Yeah, it's
is
so
everyone
good.
fine to do one more? Yeah, okay, all right. Well, we'll do Venus and Graham's. So here we go. Venus is a 3, 3, 7, 5. Venus is a 3, 7, 5, 2, 6, 6, 1, 6, 6, 1. And Graham's is a 3, 4, 2, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 4, and 7. Okay. Okay. So, oh, well, they've got the same soul. They've got the same soul mission. So that's a good start. That shows that they're certainly brought together by their souls. Their souls have called them to come together because they've both got the same soul calling. Also another couple with 6 in the emotional. Well, not 2 6s, this one in the emotional, not the mental. So that's interesting as well. What else have we got the same? Okay, right. So let's start with the soul, because it's very strong. That 3 in the soul is, you know, it's a master ray, it's a master number. So the soul, both souls have been called to come into mastery over the physical life here. So, and that means that they're really here to come in to learn about manifestation, to learn about the abundance that spirit offers them, not about monetary abundance. I'm talking about, you know, the bigger abundance, and to learn about potential and not to be limited. So and so they're both being asked to learn about their potential. And as soon as I say that, I go straight to ray 6 in the emotional and go, well, hold on a minute. Because this ray 6 in the emotional could be quite judgmental, and that perfectionism, and it'd be something that would be, you know, because they've both got it and they're both supporting each other in an emotional way. And so it's saying, well, hold on a minute, learning about potential, that there's all this potential out there, there's all this abundance out there for you, but then you've got a little voice here in the emotion saying, oh no, you can't do that, no, that's not right, that's not good. It's getting into this whole judgment story, so on an emotional level, and it can be quite powerful. So they've really got to be careful of that, because they would support each other, the same voice emotionally saying, judging everything, saying it's not good enough, it's not this, it's not perfect, it's not, so we can't try that because it's not perfect. Oh, we can't do that because it's not perfect. This needs to be better. It can't be, so we're not ready to do that because it's not in the right timing yet. There'll always be something that's not quite perfect, which would stop them reaching their potential. And that's something that really needs, it's a standout. So they need to be careful of that. So here we go. We've got it's interesting. So we have Venus has got 5 in her ego. We talked about 5 with Nick. So, that whole thing again about all in the details, or, coming into the higher consciousness. So once again, the Einstein ray coming into really opening up your consciousness to a higher consciousness. And we often, when we've got that 5 there, we can spend a lot of our life looking at all the details, living a mundane sort of life. And then one day we just hear the call and we know we have to go and do something, so we get that call. And we might have heard it many times and we're still struggling with it because we come back to our mundane life because we're frightened of doing anything different. And that emotional ray 6 is going to cause a lot of that too. And of course, we see that Venus has got that ray 6 in the physical. So she's got that, not able to see the divinity or able to see the divinity in the physical. So there is a possibility that she's moved through it and can see the divinity in her physical life as well as her emotional life, because that's the potential of any of the rays, that you can see it. But when it's in 6, I always like to ask the client, well, how judgmental are you? How many times do you say, oh, no, that's not good enough? Because 6 has a tendency to do that. It's one of the most difficult rays to come into, have the experience of, to really come into that divinity. And the thing is that both their souls are in ray 3. So once again, as I call it, the entrepreneurial ray, the Richard Branson ray, because it's seeing that there is no limitation. It's seeing that we can manifest everything when we're in alignment with our divine spirit. And that's what that ray says, is, we can manifest everything when we're in alignment to our divine spirit. But there's a lot of learning in that, because it's a master ray. It's not an experience ray. It's a master ray. So it's asking us to come into deep mastery in our soul. And so Venus has got that 5 in her ego, but Graham has got it in his mental. So he's going to support that. So he's either going to support Venus staying in her box, or he's going to support her moving out of her box. Yeah. Because, if we've got that ray 5, it's all about, do we stay in the box or do we move out of the box into the greater consciousness? Stay in the box, move out of the box. So he's either going to support her to stay there, or he's going to support her to move out through his thoughts and beliefs. And he's going to, be there or not. And then Graham's got ray 2 in his ego, which is once again that lack of self-worth, that needing to come into the mastery of self-love, honoring self, really seeing the divine in the self, not just the divine, but loving self, really accepting self is more what it's about. And of course, Venus has got it in a mental. So you can see these 2 crossovers here. There's a whole cross in this chart where they're supporting each other. And if we drew a cross, we'd see a cross sitting in the chart right here, like this. Yeah. So there's that complete co-creation there, where they're supporting each other to either be in either higher or lower polarity of that consciousness. And let's look at the monad, because that'll tell us whether they really are supporting each other. And of course, you have to ask the client. You can't just assume that they're at one end of the ray or the other. Venus has got ray 7. So ray 7's that unresolved karma that's probably put a lot of obstacles in her path to go into spirituality. So there's been a lot of resistance and unresolved karma on a spiritual path for Venus. So she's met that, and either she's met it and she's moved through it, or she's still stuck in it. So she will find there's a lot of that goes on for her on the spiritual journey. And really, and that also is about transformation and change. So it's about change. Is she willing to change from that lower mental to the higher mental? Has she been able to resolve that karma, or is she still stuck in that karma of not wanting to change? And so we need to see where are they in that polarity. And then Graham has got the ray 4. So is he working with lots of conflict and drama? Does he get caught up in the drama? Because that's what the experience is of his unresolved karma, that brings lots of drama and conflict, and he gets caught up in all the chaos. So, with 4 in your monad, you would be very caught up in all the chaotic energy that's going on in the world at the moment. If you've got a 4 in your monad and you haven't resolved the karma of it, you would be caught up in all the chaotic energy in the world right now and getting trapped in that energy, because it would be reflecting your unresolved karma. If you're working with the karma and you're really seeking harmony and balance, then your experience, you're lifting the karma. So now Graham's got that 4 in his physical. So his unresolved karma is playing out in his physical. So because that's what happens. It's the 4 playing out in his physical. So he's, maybe we're looking at saying, well, we could say there has been drama, there has been chaos and a bit of conflict in his life, particularly in his physical. So it could be through family. It could be just in his home life, through family life, through his working life. Somewhere in his physical life, he has experienced some form of, drama and chaos and a bit of conflict. Has he resolved it? We don't know. We'd have to ask him to see where he's at with it. If he's resolved it, wonderful. If he hasn't, then he's got a bit of work to do with it. So that 2, that cross in the middle, the 2 and the 5, to help and support each other to work with that would be really important. And to really become conscious of where there's judgment of your path and judgment of what's not divine. Oh, that's not good enough. When we're talking about coming into the divine, it's always about that's not good enough, or we're coming into acceptance that is perfect and divine as it is. Which side are we going to sit on here? And so then, as for you, it's really important that you become aware of that, and make sure that emotional 6 doesn't pull you down. Yeah, because it'll affect you on a physical level as well. Physical body. My body's not good enough. My family's not good enough. My home's not good enough. It's not divine and perfect. My work's not good enough. It's not divine and perfect. So going into that, unresolved karma of the 7, wanting to change things. Now, interestingly enough, let's look at this. Graham's got a 7 in his ancestral. So I don't know whether Venus would have noticed this, but you might find that in Graham's family, if you had much to do with them, there could be a great resistance to spirituality or religion, or that ability to change. There could be a whole mindset of, wherever you are, you're born in this place, you've got to put up with it, this is what it is. You can't change things, nothing's going to change, it's all going to stay the same. And there could be a great resistance to spirituality, or if you're religious, it could be religion or whatever like that, because of the fear of it, a fear of change and all that. So you might see a bit of that playing out, your karma playing out in his family, because it's the same karma. It doesn't play out for Graham anywhere else in his life, so it's not really affecting him so much, except in you. your monad. So he's going to see that same energy of his family stuff coming out in you in your unresolved karma, but it doesn't affect him on a personal level. So that's really interesting. And then in your family, it's the one, and you don't have a one anywhere else, and he doesn't have a one. So it's not really playing out so much. It's that whole, I'm going to do things my way. I'm not going to listen to anybody else. My way or the highway, you know, that sort of family karma that sits there. So there could be a little bit of that going on in your family, maybe father or mother, but probably in the father line somewhere. That very strong, you know, masculine, I'm going to do it my way. I'm not going to listen to anybody. But it's not playing out anywhere else in your chart or in Graham's chart. So I'm thinking that it's not really affecting you all that much, except you might have someone in the family that's very much, you know, not going to do anything anyone tells them to do. They're going to just do things they want to do, and it's my way, you know. So maybe there is somebody, you know, father, uncle, grandfather, somebody like that. Could be grandmother, but I just get a sense that it's masculine. So support each other. You need to support Graham to honor and accept himself. And it's in your mental. So that's saying that you have a desire mentally to learn how to love and accept self. It's something you'd read a lot of books about. Yeah. And you'd listen to courses and podcasts about it. And it's in his ego. So he could play with that experience. You want the mental experience of it. He's having a personality experience of it. And you can support him in that. And vice versa with him. He wants to, you know, he wants to understand all the little details, how to get on in life, how to be practical and all of that. But also, perhaps for him, he reads philosophical books, or he's more interested in how to understand perhaps the mind or the intellect and what it means. And he's, you know, he approaches it in that way. And that supports your personality that's struggling with lower mind, higher mind. You know, where do I go with all of this? You know, do I stay here doing this, it's safe, or do I let myself open up a bit more? And, you know, through his mental capacity, he can support you in that as well through his own study and work. Does he do that? Does he have an interest in philosophy or understanding a bit of, you know, the mind and the intellect?
Yes and no, not so much reading philosophy and what have you, but he does have an inquiring mind about certain things.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. I think what really stands out for me is that I have a big understanding now of the Ray 4 and his physical, because he's always seeking harmony and balance in,
Yes.
you know, at home. And now I can see what that actually means. I can have a more of an appreciation and understanding for that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things here that are really helpful, amazing.
Well, you don't have a 4, so, you know, that's not your experience. You're not chasing that. But you do have those 6s, and you do have the 2 in your mental. So, but, you know, it's very important for him because of that monad. And if he's not finding harmony and peace, it could certainly upset him on a physical level. So, yeah, so hopefully that little insight has been helpful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, everyone, if you were doing this with a couple, you would stop and you would ask them questions. I'm just doing a quick overview. We could spend a whole hour on this, and we would stop and we would ask to find out where each of them are on their polarity, because we could read this chart today and they're at one place, and I could read it in 5 years, and they might be, the rays will still be the same, but where they are on the polarity might be totally different because things have changed. Because remember, rays 1, 2, and 3 are mastery, so they're still going to be working through the mastery, but all the other rays are experiencing their experience rays. So how are they coping with those experiences? Are they, you know, where are they at with those experiences? Are they dealing with them a lot better than what they were, you know, today? So always talk to a couple. Don't just assume that this is the truth, because you don't know where they're sitting in that polarity at this time. So come back and refer to the couple. So Kurash, you've got a question?
Yes, I do. If we've got time, I'm not sure. At some point, I recall receiving that when someone has 4 or more mastery numbers in their soul chart reading, does this indicate something like special about their incarnation?
Well, it means they've probably got a lot of challenges, yes.
Oh, okay.
Because having 4 or 3 or 4 mastery numbers, they're being asked to really step up. And
Yeah.
if they're not doing that, and it depends. See, I always focus on soul, monad, and ego. They're the major areas. It's not so and if it's in the mental, emotional, physical, it's not so powerful. The journey or the pathway is always soul, monad, and ego, because the soul's the soul mission, the monad's the unresolved karma, and the personality is what they're doing in this time, and are they in alignment with their soul mission or are they not? And then the mental, emotional, and physical are the of where they'll play this out, and where they can be supported or not, depending on what they're choosing. And then, of course, you've got the ancestral karma, which, depending on whether they're, like Venus has got a 1 in her ancestral, but she's also got a 2 and a 3. But that ancestral karma, it's nowhere else, so it's not going to affect her all that much. It'll only affect whoever in the family is busily, doing their own thing all the time and maybe aggravating everybody else. And then she's only got a 3 in a soul, so she hasn't got any other master number there. So the 3 is where it's going to play out for her for the soul journey. And yes, she's got a 2 in a mental, but that's in a mental. It's not in a major key place. While, the mental is a major key place, but it's giving us a message that she needs to work with that, definitely. But I always look at the mastery being in the soul, monad, and ego. That's where you really need to focus.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, because with my soul chart, I've got 4 mastery numbers, and kind of makes sense. There's a lot of challenges to work on.
Well, you can only have 3. Oh, what have you got? 1, 2, and 3.
I've got 1, 2, and 3. So 1 in the ego body, 3 in the mental, 2 in the physical body, and then 1 in the ancestral body.
Yeah, well, it's only really the ego one you need to. It's going to cause you a lot of challenges. The rest are there to support you. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
So
Susie's a great example of 3 mastery rays, all in the first 3 areas: a 2 in the soul, a 1 in the monad, and a 3 in the ego.
Yeah, well, there you go. Then that's a challenge.
She's got some work to do.
And that says that she's on a really steep path. She has got some work to do when it's there. Yeah. And she can choose to do it or not. Her experience of that you go to the mental, emotional, and physical to see what support she's got for that mastery, because that's what they're there for. How is she being supported for that mastery? That's what those things are there for. Yeah. And in what areas, and maybe they, where they're playing out. So you had mental, emotional, and physical. Where did you have your master number in that area?
So mental 3, emotional 4.
Yeah. So mental 3, and where else did you have a 3?
So just one place, the mental body. Number 3.
Only in the mental, so it's not playing out anywhere else. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that's all right. Yeah. You're not on a huge, 90-degree angle. You're fine. Okay. Not a problem. So thank you, everyone. I don't want to keep you all any longer. I hope this is helpful for everybody. And if you have any questions, though, does anyone have any questions before we go? No? Well, thank you so much for doing this work. Please enjoy. If you need any help, always just reach out. Blessings to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Blessings, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ishtar.
Thank you, Muriel. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you, Ishtar, for your time.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Gurosh. Blessings.